Welcome to Ball and Chain Podcast. This is episode 192. I'm Mox Born again. I have with me, as always, it's my angel.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
Well, that's good to hear. We took a little hiatus last week, played some games, did some reconfiguring of the computer to try to get a better upload rate. I don't think that's happening. So yeah, don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Gonna need to get a new computer to.
Well, and you think it has more to do with our upload speed on our current internet situation?
Yeah, it's got a combination of the two. It's upload speed on the on our internet, and then also my PC is just not able to record the things that I'm wanting to record at the exact same time, and so on and so forth. But
I wonder if we should have switched to an audio podcast for a while.
yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing because like on the Twitch stream, the audio comes through crystal clear. It's the video that it kind of sucks. So we could just put the logo up for and still stream live on Twitch, just not have video for now until. So we might consider that. We'll see. I don't know, but we've got some fun things to talk about this week. What's going? What do we have to talk about? We've got Game of Thrones is back.
Yay!
Fear of the Walking Dead. That was what, episode 2 or 3?
Well, 1 and 2, I think, because we didn't podcast last week.
Oh yeah. 1 and 2. So we got that to talk about. We got some games to talk about.
Or 2 and 3.
Yeah,
I'm confused,
yeah, it was 2 and 3.
Because it started April 10th, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because
So-
we did talk about the first episode, how we thought that they were going away from the boat and not going to be on the boat anymore, and how we were saying like, oh well, that's nice. They,
Yeah, so episodes 2 and 3.
So yeah, so we got that to talk about. As far as games go, I rented Dark Souls 3, and we'll touch on that briefly. I didn't spend a lot of time. I should have had the game for 5 days and only spent probably about 5 hours into it, and which is kind of sad.
Well, it's hard during a work week and with kids, and
Yeah.
we had an MLG event, Magic event.
Yeah, we had a Magic event and all that stuff, so we probably won't talk about too much. I do want to mention one thing about Magic, though. Wizards of the Coast has always been one of my favorite companies, just because of their how well they respect their community. But they recently, actually, this past weekend, they had the Pro Tour. And they made some changes, and and I won't get too far into it, but they made some changes about how much they pay their pros to come play in these events or whatever. Like, they actually pay thousands of dollars if you've reached this platinum pro status to come play in their events or whatever. So you get paid to play, and they've changed how much they're paying them drastically. And they changed they have a Hall of Fame, and they changed the Hall of Fame how much you get on a yearly basis or whatever, or something like that. And there was this huge outcry or whatever, and not even 48 hours after the announcement, they released a press release saying, we've heard the outcry, we've heard the suggestions, we've taken it in consideration, we're undoing the changes we just made for the 2016-2017 season. This was our mistake. They literally said in their statement that this was our mistake. They owned up to it, and and that's something, to me as a consumer, that's something you don't hear a lot. You'll hear, "Oh, I'm sorry, and this is what we're going to do to fix it." But no company that I've ever remembered has ever said, "Oh, that was our mistake." You know what I mean? You take the Xbox 360 and its overheating thing. Not once did they, oh yeah, we're sorry. We probably should have, ran some more testing or whatever. I'm sorry. We're sorry. No, oh yeah, this was we made a mistake. You know what I mean? You just don't get that from these major corporations. So yeah, I was excited to hear that. It doesn't affect me one way or the other. They still got rid of Modern, which makes me angry, and they didn't correct that, but you know how it is. Anyway, so we got some games to talk about. You got me into another game, which we'll get into, a very mysterious
Well,
game.
you played it briefly and hadn't really, honestly, got very far. I don't know if you have any interest to continue playing.
No, we'll talk about it, but I do have interest in playing it.
Okay.
We just got. I don't like playing on a laptop. That's all there is to it. So
Oh.
we should honestly, we should have bought it on my Steam account and just share one Steam account across both of our computers.
Why can't you use my Steam account on your computer?
I can, but then I gotta log me out and log you in.
OMG.
OMG, indeed. All right, so you want to start with we also had, was it the season finale of Once Upon a Time?
Not yet.
Oh, sad face.
I mean, it was on, but there wasn't
on.
a season finale.
All right, well, you want to talk about that first?
We can. There have been 2 episodes, and trying to go back 2 weeks for me is really hard right now. Last week's episode was pretty good, entitled Sisters. It dove more into the backstory of Zelina and Regina. You found out that they had actually previously met as children. Regina goes to find her mom in the underworld, basically to try to get her to find a way to get Zelina not interested in Hades. They have found out that Hades has offered Zelina, if they have true love's kiss, his heart will restart and they can move to Storybrooke. But, obviously our heroes are not big fans of Hades. So they are, he plans on keeping them trapped in the underworld forever. So finding out of this plan, Regina, comes up, decides the plan of her own to have her mom make Zelina forget that she loves Hades or whatever. In the midst of all of this, you learn that they've met as children. Cora wiped their memories of it. And you do get some actually nice touching moments where you think Cora might actually care about her kids, maybe somewhat. You see her move on. And then you see like a bond start to form between Regina and Zelina, which is kind of cool. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with Hades. Obviously, this show has a big emphasis on like true love, and everyone ends up finding their true love. It conquers all, it breaks curses, does everything. Obviously we have that between Snow and Charming, and then you see, Regina obviously had a lot of issues, but her true love, the one that the fairy, Tinkerbell, I believe, told her was supposed to be her true love was the Robin Hood, ends up being Robin Hood. And they do in the long run end up together, at least at this point. So you kind of have to wonder if Zelina and Hades really are true love. Like, will the creators still have them, or will the writers still have them end up together? How are they going to convince Hades to allow these people out of the underworld? It'll be interesting to see how it resolves.
Yeah, I still think Hades is using her.
Yeah,
I think so.
It's quite possible.
I don't know. Because Zelina's kind of getting trapped in the whole mindset of, well, Robin Hood was an evil guy that would rob people, and it was rob from the rich and give to the poor, but still rob people. Right. And she's like, well, and he turned you and you turned him, and you're both the good people, and she's kind of justifying it her own way, and I think this just makes for a good letdown. I mean, her character's been beaten up like mentally for a while in the past few episodes, past few seasons even. So I think it's just going to be another,
since she was a kid.
Fuck.
I mean,
yeah.
Basically, since she was a kid and being abandoned, and the father that raised her, kept telling her that her magic was wicked and that she was evil and all this. So
yeah, it just kind of because you said there was only a couple more episodes left.
There's got to be.
So it kind of sets it up for a really good finale where he's the evil doer or whatever, and he betrays her, and he's on in Storybrooke or whatever. So it would make sense, but that's kind of my idea on where it's going.
They seem to wrap up sections of story pretty well, like at the end of mid-season and the beginning of the next of the end of the season. They seem to wrap up whatever, whether it was the Frozen storyline or
Right.
the Ice Queen or, whatever it is. They seem to wrap up one story to start the next at the beginning of the next season.
Okay. Talk about Fear. It's a pretty good episode, right? They got off the island, or they got off the boat, went to a house that was signaling them with lights or whatever on the porch or whatever.
This was 2 episodes ago. Yeah.
Right, and so they sent a small group on the dinghy or on the whatever they call it to shore. Come to find out, it's just this family that's been living in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
They're on an
Kids.
island. They're on an island, so they're pretty safe. I mean, there's still zombies washing up, but they've built a fence.
Well, it was like a nature refuge, right?
Right. Yeah. So turns out that the dad is kind of like a survivalist. Like he's very like doomsday-ish. Like we're gonna survive as a family and stay as a family, and that's all there is to it.
Well, and this is all very natural. Nature always finds a way to, I don't remember how he puts it, but our civilization, our world, the earth couldn't sustain itself as people currently, we're killing the world, so the world decides, to fight back, and this is kind of what's happened.
Right. So then we also see Trevor's son, Travis's son, kind of open up into like he starts killing zombies essentially through the fence with the son that's on the island, the older son,
which is a little cathartic for him, given the fact that his mom was bit. He's having this kind of mental breakdown.
Right. Which in the new episode, the one from last week, they kind of do some scavenging on another island, and it's actually where the plane crashed from the miniseries from Walking Dead, the miniseries in between there.
Whatever
Flight
the heck
412 or 419 or whatever.
Yeah.
And he actually goes into one of the plane wreckages and sees a couple zombies. He tries to clear out, tries to kill a couple of them, but there is someone that's alive. There's a survivor, and he's like, "Help me," or whatever.
Yeah, so he tries to assist them.
He tries to assist them. This guy is like upside down, or no, he's in his seatbelt. He's in his seatbelt sideways. So the kid like unbuckles him, and forgive me, I don't know his name because I don't know any of these people's names yet. He unbuckles him, and the guy literally falls out of his seat on the ground, and you see that like his spine is broken, and like it's sticking,
was nasty.
right? It's sticking out of his back, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
So like the guy's not asking to help him; he's asking him to kill him.
Right.
So then Chris decides, oh yeah, I'll just pummel this guy to death. So he hits him in the face with this like metal bar thing or whatever, and he goes. He just see the dude's eye just like looks at him like, is that all you're gonna do? It was just like, you're gonna need to hit him a little bit harder.
That was hard to watch.
Right. So then like it zooms out and he just hears ugh, and just like, oh my god.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the ship was kind of stuck. The
that's
water
right.
filtration, the intake
was clogged.
Was clogged with the zombie.
Right. Which was one of the survivors from the flight.
Yeah. But you definitely. We're having some more of that static again showing up. You definitely see what is the Strand, another side to him. The mom. This is bad. Morgan? No. Anyway.
God, what is her name?
I know, isn't that horrible?
It's not Morgan. You're close though.
She Madison. She kind of teams up with him. And says, okay, you know what? You've got this awesome, she finds out that according to him, he has this awesome house, this shelter with all kinds of arsenals, that'll be a safe place during the apocalypse.
Right.
Supposedly. And so she's like, okay, yeah, we'll go here. I'll get my people on board with this. But of course, the team that's out scavenging comes back with, the lady
she knew something was up. Yeah, she knew something was up. She's the one that was like was murdering people, like, oh, you need to stab him in the
On the
head
flight.
on the
Mhm.
flight, and then the kid that was kind of like her cohort or whatever.
Right, and who had got really, really badly injured and burned in the flight.
Right.
So they brought them back, and Strand refused to let them on the ship.
Right.
So they were going to tow him to land. Well, halfway through, you can see Strand is getting really worked up about this as they're driving away with these people in tow, and he just comes down and cuts the rope. So
Right.
they're just left
Stranded
in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. On a raft with no food.
That
or
could
water.
very well be the end of them. I don't see how they could survive that, how they're going to get anywhere.
Well, we still don't know about the people that were contacting Alexis.
Right.
I think it's Alexis or Alexa.
Something along those lines.
Right.
But yeah, so there's a lot of loose ends kind of
Right.
out here. You know, the people on the radio that have kind of gone away. You know, this person that they've kind of screwed over in the middle of the
Right.
ocean.
Is the person on the radio the same people that they came across the capsized ship that's got like bullet holes in it? Are
don't
those two
think
in the
so.
same? They haven't confirmed that though.
Right. And there was the boat that was following them for a while.
Right. So there's like all these loose ends, and the thing is, that's kind of how the original series started. Was there's a bunch of loose ends. You see Morgan, and him and Rick part ways, and that kind of sets that up for seasons down, which. I don't know if they're just kind of planting these seeds and like, hey, we know we have another season to tape or whatever. This is going to be something that we pay off next season or whatever.
Or they're just going to leave him out there and forget about him. But then what's the point?
Right. Especially the people on the raft. It's like you've made a big deal about this miniseries. You're like, oh yeah, and we're going to tie it into the Fear the Walking Dead. And
yeah. And here it was one episode.
Here it was
and gone.
Right. It was one episode, 2 scenes: them running down a hill, getting on the dinghy, and them getting just
Right.
stranded on a raft.
Right. So yeah, hopefully, and The Walking Dead never seems to have anything just for the heck of it. Like,
Right.
especially in the original show, like everything is very well calculated.
Mhm.
So I can't see all these not coming back into the show somehow.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's getting better. I think I feel the same way. Like when I watched the original series, and like when you watched it, you couldn't get into it either, and I kind of felt the same way. Like, yeah, this is okay. Like it's
It's hard to get really in love with the cast.
right. Which I felt the exact same way with maybe not the first season of Walking Dead, but the first few episodes of Walking Dead. Like I really didn't have like. I immediately fell in love with Dale. I mean, that was like my favorite character. But I mean, other than that, I really don't. And I feel the same way about Trevor. Like I really like Trevor's character.
Travis,
whatever.
but you can't remember his name.
Travis, same thing. Travis.
Travis.
Trevorous.
That's like what?
Dr.
No,
Trevorous.
that's Dr. Trevorous. That's Eli's Minecraft videos that he watches.
Oh my God. Trevor.
Gosh, darn it.
I'm doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
now.
I can tell.
So anyway, we'll see. Hopefully it'll get better. I don't know.
Our only other show. Oh, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Let's move on to Game of Thrones. Season premiere.
It was awesome. A lot of people dying.
Death and boobies. Death and boobies.
Really, really saggy boobies.
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
So we kind of touched base with most of the groups, with the exception of Bran, who is coming back. He was not seen at all last season. I believe next episode we'll be seeing a lot more of him.
Yeah, which we actually forgot him when we were talking during the show. Like, man, we only have Arya and Sansa Stark. Everyone else is dead. We forgot about Bran. So there is a namesake there. They will, or someone to carry on. An heir to the Stark family. So that's good.
Yeah.
If he lives.
Yeah, he's been in training with the Three-Eyed Raven up in the north. So it'll be interesting to see, especially, I've seen like still photos, and he has grown up a lot. Like he was definitely like this little kid when it first started. And we haven't seen him for a year. So that'll be interesting. I've read the first book, and I have not got into the second book. But this is the first season that surpasses the books. So nobody really knows what's going to happen, or nobody has any inklings, because It hasn't been written yet.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. They are that they have said that they are going to veer in a different direction. That it should not spoil the books. So
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of sad because they did announce that there's only going to be 2 seasons left this season.
Well, that's kind of what's been said. I don't know that that's necessarily the case.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know that that's 100% official.
Oh, I thought you said that was official.
They've said that that's what they're planning on doing at this point is the next 2 seasons, splitting them and making them 2 shorter seasons.
That's sad. That makes me sad. I love
The
this
seasons
show.
are short enough as it is. They're only 10 episodes.
Right. We don't want to do any more work, but still give us more money.
Anyway.
Who else should we catch up on? We caught up with.
Well, the big question that everybody was wondering is Jon Snow dead?
Oh, he's dead.
He's definitely dead. Whether or not he can be brought back is another story. His body is still at Castle Black.
They left him in the snow.
Yeah. But yeah, he's dead. Like dead.
He bled out. They did the eye thing, so that clarifies he's dead. He's laying on the table, and they closed his eyes. That means you're dead. You.
No, we do have the Red Woman at Castle Black. We've seen other followers of the God of Light bring back people to life.
Mm-hmm.
There was I can't even remember what they're called, but the person that Arya was with for a short time that had kind of captured her and the son of Robert Baratheon, the bastard son. I can't think what his name is. But anyway, we did see that guy had been brought to life. I don't know how many times. So it may be possible.
Mm-hmm.
We also see Melisandre is really doubting herself, though.
Right.
She even had mentioned, I saw him in the flames, too, at Winterfell.
Right.
Now, that may be something that could still happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if she could bring him back to life, maybe she does see him in the flames at Winterfell. But she also saw, I believe, Stannis fighting and winning there too, which obviously did not happen. So she's really doubting herself in the visions. The big cliffhanger with her at the end, not cliffhanger, but the big revelation.
The reveal. She has a magic necklace. It's super magical.
The thing is, though, and I've read about this online, there is an episode where she is in the tub and she is not wearing that and she appears as herself.
Oh. Wah, wah, wah.
So kind of a loophole there.
Yeah. That's a whoops.
One person's explanation of that, or this might be many, but the one theory on that is that in that scene she's discussing the smoke and mirrors that she uses. So in that scene, I think there was only one other person in that room with her.
So you think
maybe they already saw her as the old, only ever saw her as the old woman.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe she was using some other trickery or something. It's hard to say.
Right.
But yeah, it does kind of appear to be a little loophole in the storytelling.
Yeah, she takes off her necklace, and it pretty much reveals what I'm assuming is her true form. And she's extremely old, very brittle, and yeah.
I read somewhere like 400 years old or something along those. I don't know if that's someone's just saying, "Oh, she's really old, like 400 years," or if that's really what her backstory is.
But
I'm hoping we get more backstory on her. This leads into more backstory on who Melisandre actually is and where she comes from.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like with like these huge like movie production movie or shows. There's so much backstory, like even with Game of Thrones, because there's not a lot of interaction between, you see some interaction with some of the groups and then it cuts to another group. There's like 6 different parties going on. Mm-hmm. And there's so much information that we only have seen like Melisandre for like a couple years. Like, and if she's indeed, hundreds of years old, I want to see what's going on,
what led up to her becoming this. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Or who was she trained by, or who was her master at one point in time?
Well, and the books go into a lot more detail as far as some of the old, some of the older wars and stories that have been kind of alluded to.
Mm-hmm.
In the show, I mean, they briefly allude to some of these things, but how they overthrew how Robert and Ned Stark overthrew the Mad King, and
Right.
but there's a lot more backstory to all of that that is included in the books that we don't really get in the show.
Right.
And other people have thought or have mentioned online that maybe they'll be doing maybe they'll finish this Game of Thrones, but then come out with a miniseries. But the producers have said that right now they're focusing on the stories they have to tell here.
Right.
They're not going to say that they're going to do a miniseries this time because they need to focus on what they're working on now. It's a huge project.
Right. So, what else did we caught up with?
Briefly with
Sansa.
Arya.
Oh, briefly with Arya, who is blind
Mm-hmm.
and is now a beggar. So yeah, so she's being. It looks like she's just gonna go through like this daily training with some chick.
Well, she's the one that was in the faceless.
Right. She was the one that they were washing bodies together, right? Yeah. So she's still she looks like she's still in training for the is it Two-Faced or Faceless?
The faceless god.
Faceless God, yeah. So
The House of Black and White. Yeah, it looks like they haven't really necessarily thoroughly discarded her.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what the plan is for her.
right, and then we caught up with Theo and Sansa.
Theon.
Anyway, they're running away from
Ramsay.
Ramsay, and yeah, bad things are going to happen to them if they get caught, which they don't.
Which they did get caught.
Well, they did get caught, and and the thing is, like, you look at you're like just in this peril on the edge of your seat, and you're like, they're so screwed. Like, this dude doesn't have a dick to give, and she is gonna be beaten to a bloody pulp. But luckily, I can't even remember her name. I
Brienne.
I am terrible with names. Holy cow!
Yeah, Brienne comes in and saves the day, and
Yep.
Podrick.
Yep.
One question is, where did the hounds go?
Yeah, that's
like,
true. Like,
We didn't see them kill the dogs.
It seemed, and they seem like, and they're bloodhounds. So
They probably
Ramsay,
would have heard them coming up.
well, right, and when the one thing that that I was thinking of is and Ramsay has trained these dogs to basically attack its prey or whatever. So they're tracking these two people through the woods or whatever. If someone lets go of the leash, that dog is going to tear the person at the other end apart. So obviously something had to happen to the dogs. They just didn't put it on camera.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird.
Yeah, PETA would have been pissed.
But yeah, that was
Is there anything else that
a good scene. Well, like you said, Jon Snow may still be brought to life.
we also saw
Jaime
Kingslayer.
Lannister.
Yep,
Mhm.
Kingslayer come back and kind of meet up with what's her name?
Cersei.
Cersei. So, and she's pissed. But
She-
he's
well,
pretty like, they're like, we need to he's like, fuck everyone, fuck them all. I'm like,
She
no, you
seemed-
two fuck.
Yeah, she seemed more beat down this time, and he was like, "No, we're gonna go get our revenge."
Right.
Um,
We met up with the queen for a little bit. Or princess.
she's queen now.
Is she queen?
She's
Yeah.
married to Tommen. Yeah, she's in the
Still
dungeon
in the
still.
dungeon. Yep. Refuses to admit to any type of fault or sin.
Right. So
Um.
I don't know. It was very brief. We saw some of Daenerys get led to the call of
Mhm.
that group of the
The
Dothraki.
Dothraki.
And that of course they were gonna all have their way with her and all of this
she
until
kept her
she realizes that until they realize that she is a widow of one of the other calls.
Right.
And as such, she has to, by their law, go to live in this city where all the widows live, and that's not really her plan.
Right.
She wants to be escorted back to the town where she was ruling,
Right.
and they're like, no, that's not where you belong." So it'll be interesting to see how.
I want to see where her dragon. Oh, we did see all of her ships were burned down. So I wonder what
Mm-hmm.
the deal is with that.
Yeah.
So a lot of unanswered questions, which is good. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
season
it was
premiere.
it was just kind of briefly catching up with each group, just saying, "Hey, here they are. This is what's going on with them."
Yep.
Not a lot of answers, but
A lot of questions though. I need to go back and I think this week I'm going to go back and start the series over again and kind of catch up back up.
okay.
So Anyway, that's pretty much all of our shows. I really haven't gotten. I know I keep saying this week after week. I got to get back into Archer and Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul's over.
I'm just saying we spent like half our show on shows.
Half our shows on shows. So let's talk about Dark Souls. Dark Souls 3.
I really don't have anything to say.
Okay. Well, so I've never played any of the Souls games. Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2. I've never played any of them. I've heard a lot about them, how they're very challenging and very difficult, and it's, not for the easily enraged gamer. Which I can be very well, very much so. But I wanted to try it, so I rented it, and I have to say, and I was kind of feeling out for a game to purchase between Quantum Break and this. I'm actually leaning more towards this, Dark Souls 3, just for a couple different reasons. A little bit deeper game. There's a lot more gameplay to it. Like, you can build multiple characters. It's more of an RPG. Difficulty side, set aside, the game is much more deep than Quantum Break. The character classes, the weapon classes, the magic system, the enemy types. It's pretty badass. I really don't know. I mean, Magic Vice tried to explain the story to me of Demon Soul. Demon Souls. So I've missed quite a bit of the storyline. So the story, I'm not anywhere near to comprehending the story. Like, I don't really know anything about it. But the gameplay is a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of old school Nintendo games, and the fact that you have 1 life or 3 lives or whatever, like an old school Mario game. You have 3 lives to beat this game. And while this game has save points, it's kind of neat because if you've never played one before, and there's not many people out there that haven't played any of these, that haven't played the series, but if you haven't played one before, basically the way you save is you go up to these you create these campfires. Like, there's pre-created campfires that you walk up to, and that's kind of like a save point. Well, when you save, all the enemies that you've killed respawn. So, like, you have to, like, basically go through and, you go through this, linear path or whatever. You kill, like, 15, 20 enemies. You collect souls, which you then use to purchase, equipment or level your character up. And it's kind of neat because you get so far and you're like, well, I know there's a boss coming up because he's crushed me so many times. I don't have the right equipment, and equipment plays a big part in it, which is interesting. Like, you can watch for how the tells for the enemy, like when they swing and when they're vulnerable and where their weak points are. But if you don't have the right equipment, there's like so much instant kill in this game, it's ridiculous. Especially the lower levels. So, like, what you basically have to do is honestly grind out the first part of the game until you get a good set of equipment. Really pick up on some of the magic that goes into the game. To me, it's just astonishing. Like, just not playing this, not knowing anything about it. It's just like, this just reminds me so much of Mario and, like, Battletoads, and, like, how, if you didn't get this section right, you are going all the way back to the beginning. So I'm really impressed with it. What you got going on?
Nothing.
Oh,
just doing some research.
Doing some research. So I'm leaning towards purchasing the Dark Souls 3. I think that's super awesome game.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. So, maybe coming up next month or so, we'll pick it up and actually give it a go, do some streaming with it and stuff like that. And you guys can watch how terrible I am at it. But so that's so Dark Souls 3. What else? Okay, so why don't you talk about the game that you've got me playing that from the early 90s?
Okay, so I was at my grandparents' house this past weekend, and I don't know how we got on the subject, but my grandma got a new.
Fix the computer.
Well, you went over to fix the computer, and my grandma got a new computer. And my aunt lives there, and somehow my aunt and my grandma and I got started on the topic of a game we all played. back that was released.
Your grandma played this game?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we all played it, and I mean, it was a huge game at the time. It was released in 1993, and it's had several different releases come out. It's been released for the Mac, PC, I think one of the Ataris, PlayStation 2, Xbox, one of the handheld systems.
I think I think it's got a DS version.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different versions. There's 3 or 4 different. Actually, I think Myst or the 5th one was the final game in the saga. But yeah, it's Myst. Love the game. It's definitely was like a huge part of my like childhood. Like I don't remember what we got the game for, whether it was Christmas or if it was just a game that we happened to get. But in '93 I was 10. So I'm sure we didn't get it right when it first released, but probably somewhere between 10 and 12. My family had purchased the game. It really came out. It made the CD-ROM drive a highly popular feature in computers. At that point, they were still kind of on the verge of being very, very new.
Right, still floppies.
Yeah, and Myst really helped kind of bring the CD-ROM drive to into existence and into like popular.
Just made a viable format.
Right. So, basically, I don't know many people who haven't played the game. You being one, yeah, which was shocking.
It's because I was playing Baldur's Gate and Diablo at the time.
Okay.
And Doom, and Duke Nukem. I had PC games that I played.
But this one was one. My dad and I got to play it together. So we used to have, before my parents converted our study into a bathroom, a master bath. We'd sit up there, and we'd take our dinners up there, and it's you're dropped on. If you don't know about the game, you're dropped onto this island.
Start out on a dock.
You do. You start out on a dock. Basically, the backstory, as you find out when you open up the game, is that there's this book, and you've come across it, and you kind of fall into this land called Myst. And you're just dropped here, and you have absolutely no clue what you're doing here, where to go. You're left with no objectives, no directions,
There's
nothing.
no HUD. No map. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, this is a true 90s game. Like,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
In your computer, you didn't buy games digitally. You bought the box that had all the stuff in there, and in the box came with a journal. Just a blank journal for you to write in. Back in these days, you didn't have picture phones. That's one thing. As I was playing upstairs, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll just snap a screenshot of that, take a picture. You couldn't do that back in these days.
You had to actually sketch it out.
Yeah, you had to actually sit there. So, my dad would mostly be over controls, and I'd sit there with the journal, and we'd try to figure things out. And in the one of the main buildings, there are some books there that have some sketches, some numbers. One has constellations in there with different symbols, but you really that's all you're really left with. The only clue is something about tower rotation. You're like, all right, well, where do I go from here? So tell me your first impressions of the game, because as someone who's never played it before.
So playing it, 30 years later, almost? I mean, it's and like, let's be honest, we're not playing the original game, so like the graphics have been updated. They still look like crap.
Slightly, yeah.
They still look like crap. But trying to find a PC that would run the original Myst is damn near impossible at this point in time. But I don't know. Like I don't think to me it seemed like I don't know. It just seemed like the controls were very clunky,
it's one of those games where you just have a hand on the screen, and if you move it to the right hand of the screen, it points right, and you click it, and it turns you to that side.
Right. Yeah. So like, to me, like, I really wish this could have been like an open world game, where you could walk around and walk off the path or whatever. But like, so the encumbersome of the controls kind of got to me. But I can see how like the game is super like you really have to think about like what's going on. Like there's just when you walk into the first island, it's like there's like 15 puzzles, and you really don't know where to start and what to. I mean, you could tell that some of them are linked together, like the constellation chair thing or whatever, and then like the stone arches outside or stone pillars outside. They've got something to do with each other. Then you've got like the power grid downstairs that you got to try and get the power, to the generators, which then I guess turns on the island. I get all the electricity on the island, but I don't know, it's an interesting game. And it's kind of like one of those things that I complain about a lot about now. Like games nowadays, they really hold your hand, and this game is completely opposite. There's no hand holding whatsoever. It's literally you need to figure out what to do. I'm assuming there's no combat interactions. Like there's no combat in this game. It's pretty much just puzzles. So like, yeah, like so there's no dying or anything like that. But it's playing it for the first time 30 years after launch it's kind of neat. It's interesting it's just interesting to see how far games have come nowadays and what you kind of take for granted. Like when going back to Dark Souls or whatever, there's no map in this game. There's no you have you've got your life total at the top, and you've got how much MP you've got, and action points and all that stuff, and you kind of take that stuff for granted because you're like, you start swinging your sword and rolling all over the place, and you're like, okay, now I gotta wait for the little meter to tick up before I can start swinging my sword again or diving, interacting with the environment and shit like that. It's just like, so with this one, it's it's more puzzle driven and more, it's easier. You have to use your thinker. As Eli would put it.
Yeah, and you really do.
But I think what I want to do, I want to play this game as if I'm going to go back. I do want to go back and play it, but I want to play this game without the help of the internet. So I don't want your input because I know that you've already kind of gone down that path. Shame on you.
I know. I didn't have. I did figure out the first portion of it to get to one of the ages myself without the internet, but once I got to one of the age, because I don't want to go into a whole lot of the story because obviously you haven't played it before, and
so
it becomes a very immersive, at least at the time when I was young and playing this at the time,
and I'm hoping that's the case. I mean, there's really not a lot of story behind it. Like it's all in like it's kind of like Baldur's Gate in a sense where there's some cutscenes in Baldur's Gate, but most of that shit you read in the books that are in the game. And at the time that I had when I was a kid, I had plenty of time to do that. I could sit down and play a session of Baldur's Gate where I didn't even play the game. I just read a freaking book and was like, oh, so this is what the battle or war was about, or this is where this town came to be, or this is where this person rose to power or whatever. And wouldn't get anywhere in the game, but I would read the books in the certain libraries or that people would have in their rooms or whatever the case may be. So trying to find out where to find the time to do that, and this is going to be difficult, but I want to try to give it its fair shake.
Now, see, it's really interesting looking at this like missed Wikipedia page here. In 1993, it was praised by the critics. Computer Gaming World said it was assured readers that the game was not like other CD-ROM games that were high on glitz and low on substance. Misses everything it's touted to be, and quite simply the best Macintosh CD-ROM game. It praised the game's open-world nature, lack of death, and straightforward and simple storyline. The magazine stated the mesmerizing and stunning graphics and sound were not star of the show. The substance of the game is every bit as good as its packaging, includes that Myst is bound to set a new standard. So Wired magazine and the New York Times suggested that Myst was evidence that video games could in fact evolve into an art form. Entertainment Weekly reported some players considered Myst a virtual morality and religious experience. I mean, it was really this big, a huge thing back in the 90s. Now, It's really, really yeah. GameSpot's Jeff Sangstack wrote that Mist's an immersive experience that draws you in and won't let you go. So it became this huge hit. However, it's hilarious now because apparently in the year 2000, in a retrospective review, IGN went back and was like looking at it's like, oh, they said,
Oh,
okay, we're gonna play this
God.
game, right? IGN declared that Myst had not aged well and that playing it was like watching a hit TV shows from the 70s, thinking people really watched that. You wondered in horror.
Right. Well, I mean, and that kind of goes back to like when I mean, you go back and watch your favorite movie or favorite TV show or
Right.
whatever.
The Mario World, for instance.
Oh, I was just thinking that. Literally just thinking like, hey, I used to watch this growing up and it was amazing. Or the Legend of Zelda cartoon. Like, this was amazing when I was a kid. And you go back and I'm like, oh my God, I was an idiot. This is terrible.
You have to go in and again, that's why I don't know if you would have the same experience with it now as I would. For me, it's a more nostalgic thing.
Right.
Well,
you can't let that get the better of you though. Like
no, but at the same time, you have to go in. You can't go in with a 2016 mindset either.
Did you have to check the clock on that? I think you just glanced at the clock.
Yeah, I really did. Okay, I'm sorry.
We are not in 1993 right now.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But I did find myself writing 2015 the other day, or 14. I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, you have to go in. You cannot go in with the 2016 game mindset. I mean, this game, you got to remember, this game was produced 23 years ago.
Jeez.
So thinking about what was capable, what was coming out, what were games like then, what else was on the market, and what was computing power.
Doom.
I mean, you gotta think about it.
I wonder if
Coming
was
from that
Quake
mindset.
back then. That might have been Quake too, like Quake and Unreal Tournament. Well, that's 93, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like Super Nintendo. Yeah, so that would have been like Quake and Unreal Tournament and stuff like that, and Duke Nukem.
But if you think about, it's a totally different type of game too. So if you think about games now, and playing the games that we play, and then playing a game like Heavy Rain,
Right.
or The Life is Strange, something that's totally outside the box. That's not. It's not a
first person shooter.
It's not a first person shooter. It's not a
High
like
action.
turn taking RPG. It's not.
Right.
It's something totally different and outside the box.
Would you relate it to like Portal?
Maybe in a way. I mean, it is puzzle. I think there's a little more story to it than Portal. You do get into story. I mean, there is backstory. You start to kind of collect a little bit more of that. And then there's, like I said, there's 5 sequels. I've only played.
Myst?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, there's 4 sequels, total of 5 Mists.
Oh my God.
I played
Are
the
they
second.
all the same type of game?
Yes.
Wow.
I believe so. I've played the second one, which is Riven.
Mm-hmm.
However, I never
Riven
got
or Risen?
Riven, Riven. I never got to actually beat that game because our computer was not good enough.
It's good enough to play most of it, just not all of it.
Right. There was this part, there's like this track, and you're moving kind of quickly, and it would skip. Like you could only see certain frames, and it would get stuck, and it would freeze, and that was about the end of. I could never make it past that.
Like, you won.
Yeah, I know. I could never get.
See, nowadays that's how games ship, and then they just patch them.
Yeah, it was bad. And so so I'm really hoping to beat Myst this turn around and go back and then get Riven, and replay that.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So going back and playing Myst. Actually, not going back to play Myst, starting to play Myst. Going way back.
Yeah, Maxis released SimCity.
All right. How'd you do at the tournament this weekend? Had a Magic tournament. We
Not so hot.
had a sealed Magic tournament this weekend that we hosted at Buffalo Wild Wings. We only got to play 3 rounds though, which is kind of disappointing. I wish we got to play our full 4. But we hosted it. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Basically, if you haven't played Magic the Gathering, highly recommend you. Next Tuesday, we've got a podcast called Mana Drained, where Magic Vice and myself, we go in and talk about the card game Magic the Gathering. But I just want to briefly touch on it a little bit, just kind of see what you thought of it. And this is the first time you've played with the new set, Shadows over Innistrad. What did you think of the set? Or what did you think of, like...
I felt like my card... I
Our
don't know.
card
We had some... Yeah, I don't know.
If you combined our 12 packs of cards, I think we could have made a pretty badass blue-white deck. But...
it wasn't very...
Mine were terrible. Like, I didn't have any finishing cards. Like, my best finishing card was a blue card that cost 6 that put 2/2 zombie tokens into play for each sorcery and instant in your graveyard, which is great, but the zombies come into play tapped, and it's a sorcery, so you have to play it during your turn, and you have to have 7 freaking mana to do it. So, like, you can't, you've got to, like, tap out to do this and hope to God that you survive or that your team survives. Because there's what's the sorcery that you had, the white one that exiled all creatures of the same name or something like that? Not Detention Sphere, Desolation Stone or something like that?
I don't know the name of it.
But, like, yeah, you can, I didn't know this, but you can target a token and it'll get rid of all the tokens.
I didn't know that.
And they won't get any of the clue tokens.
I didn't know you could do that.
Right. So, like, I'm just, like, thinking, like, every time I cast it... That would have been
helpful.
Like, every time I cast it, I'm thinking, like, oh, God, don't kill me. Like, if I could just survive. But I went 2-2, which wasn't too bad. How did you do? Did you go 2?
1 and 2.
1 and 2. So...
Now, I could have beat...
Or, no, I went 2 and... No, I went 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Because you beat me, right? Yeah. Yeah, you beat me.
I beat you. I could have beat Nick. I should have. Had I been paying attention. We ended up playing 3 games. The third one was just for fun, and I did beat him that game. The first 2 games, I should have beat him both times. I actually had him down to like 4 or 5 life, and I was like 11 or 12. And it was just stupid mistakes, me not looking at certain things. Like one turn he was attacking me, and I blocked the wrong card. I wasn't paying attention to the one card I didn't block. He could pump, and he pumped it up to a +8/+8 and killed me.
Oh.
If I had blocked that card and had not been able to take that damage, he would have been dead the next round.
Yikes.
Similar kind of a thing on the next one too. I don't remember.
You played Jesse, I think.
No, I mean with Nick, the second game on Nick.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I should have had that one. Jesse just beat me. There was nothing.
Our
there.
games went really long. I kept drawing land. Like, I had 17 land in my deck, and I just... Like, and the thing is, you said it during the very end of our game. You've got a handful of cards. Why aren't you playing anything? Because they were literally all land. I had nothing. I had probably about 12 land out, and I had an additional 4 land in my hand. And, like, I would draw a draw spell. Like, okay, I can draw. So I played the draw spell and, like, draw 2 cards and discard 1. I'm like, oh, shit, well, this is 2 lands. Okay, well, I'll discard a land. So, but, I don't know. My deck was pretty fun. Like I said, I didn't have any finishers, so all my games went really, really long. But I had a lot of bounce, a lot of draw spells, a lot of control. It's a lot of control magic. It's just your typical blue-white control deck. But I just didn't have enough, like, things to cast to win the game. So nothing like my pre-release deck. My pre-release deck was awesome. I really enjoyed the pre-release deck. So, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. Magic Vice came in first place. He went undefeated. So you could have beaten him, huh? Darn.
I really could have and really should have.
Damn.
Hey, he even admitted it. I don't know if he's still logged on there, but he did. FYI, in 1993, Windows 3.1 was out.
Wow. And we're on, what, Windows 10 nowadays?
Yeah, Windows 3.1. I remember Windows 3.1.
I don't remember Windows 3.1.
Really?
No, I don't.
Yeah, Duke Nukem 2 came out in 1993.
Oh, okay. So Duke Nukem had been out for a while then.
Epic Pinball.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, that was episode... Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I do not.
All right. Well, that was episode 129? No, 192.
God.
Oh, my God. 192. We have our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out our older podcasts, or most of them at least, or our other shows, you can watch them there. YouTube.com/72DPI online. It's our Gaming Clans channel, so there's a whole bunch of stuff up on there for you guys to enjoy. If I want to thank the people that jumped into our chat on our Twitch channel, www.twitch.tv/BC Podcast. We do record live every Wednesday, right about 8 o'clock, sometimes a little bit later. But if you want to get the when we go live, I always tweet out when we go live, so you can follow us on Twitter at BC Podcast, and I'll let you know when we're going live, along with some other fun things that we do when we do streaming and stuff like that. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have another show called Mana Drain. That's the first and third Tuesdays of the month, trying to get Magic Vice to go every week. So send your hate mail to him. Yeah, it's the first and third Tuesdays. We talk about Magic the Gathering, a lot of fun stuff. So make sure you head over this way to twitch.tv/BC Podcast next Tuesday. And then we will be back on Wednesday for some more fun games and shows and all sorts of good stuff. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.